Over here, buddy.
Over here?
Good. All right, welcome. Good, I got a confirmation that we can be heard on the internet. My name is Jay Carpenter, and welcome to Desert Blockchain Camp. This is part of an initiative to build the community here in Arizona around decentralized web and constructs and bring the community together. And tonight, I think, is a real opportunity to explore the possibility of funded collaboration. So I'm excited to have the conversation tonight. So this is being recorded, and we are in an industrial space. So this is not like a regular public location, so please be careful. I know it's dark. I apologize for how dark it is in here, but we're still kind of building this out. And we kind of have restrooms, but kind of don't. So, so if you really need to use the restroom, the men's works, and the women's is only for emergencies. So let's put it that way.
The GC was 3 blocks that way.
And that's right, run. You're right. So before we get started, I would like to introduce a few people. We do have JC on Zoom, and we might have a few other folks that join us. JC is with UAT and Perimeter 83, and I don't know if you can, oh, there she is. Hey, JC. Are you muted? Oh, let me unmute you.
Oh, I thought it was me.
Sorry, folks, we are experiencing technical difficulties.
Well, not really. This actually worked better than I expected.
True.
Can you hear me okay?
Let's see.
We forgot to decentralize it. That's the problem.
This is live stream now? This is live stream, yes. And so I don't know participants. And we're going to
I see here.
and then unmute. And
Can you hear me now?
Casey, can you?
I don't think it's working still.
Okay. Did you have the audio set up? I think it's with the TV. It's a problem with the TV. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn the TV off. Turn the volume up. And then I'm going to turn the TV back on. The monitor, I should say. Dating myself.
I missed
That's right. Okay, try it again, Jason.
How about now? Is it working?
Yeah.
Still no?
That is important. The speakers didn't turn off.
How about now?
Okay.
Anything?
All right. Go ahead. Say something again.
How about now? Is that working?
Yeah, I know it's because of this sound bar. So.
Damn it, soundbar.
So I'm going to turn the sound bar off. And turn the sound bar off.
How about now? Does that work now?
So anyway, sorry, JC, we're going to move on, but it's good to see you. And
Yeah, click the unmute button. That might help.
okay.
Yeah. I've tried it a few times. I don't know.
She's muting and unmuting herself. Okay, well, we'll press on. So
Okay.
anyway, so we have either in our midst or listening in via communication almost every one of the major academic institutions in Arizona. So we have Dennis Kibbe from Mesa Community College, and Dennis runs the blockchain program for Mesa Community College. Dennis, you want to tell us about what you guys do there at Mesa?
Well, we do a number of things. My area of responsibility is our new blockchain program, and I have flyers out on the tables about it. We have 3 classes, a survey class designed for anybody who's interested in learning about the technology, and then 2 programming classes, one around the theory of smart contracts and one around Hyperledger. And again, I have flyers on the table so you can pick those up, and it's got my contact information if you want to know more about it. We are also a Red Hat Enterprise Linux Academy, so that we have their program as well for students to become certified in Red Hat Enterprise Linux. And we've also just become an AWS Amazon Web Services Academy, so I'm rolling out curriculum for cloud computing as well, and that's in addition to Cisco, VMware, and all the other stuff that we do as well. So if you have any questions about the technical classes we have at MCC, you can get in touch with me again. My contact information is on the flyers, or just grab a card from me.
Good. And so we also have Tim Kelly from GCU, who will talk a little bit about what they're up to in a bit. We have Dragan Boscovich, who was going to be here with us, not feeling well, but he's actively involved in this conversation. And we also have some folks from NAU that are interested in this conversation, and they're listening in at least virtually and via email. Enterprise-wise, we have Corey Williams from Marsh. Corey, you want to tell us a little bit about Marsh and what you're doing with blockchain at Marsh?
So at Marsh, what we're working on, and Marsh is one of the worldwide risk insurance company, and we're a digital group bringing them into the 21st century. So what we're doing, what we've already launched is insurance on a blockchain, and we're getting ready to launch another project. So I don't know if it's public yet or not, but proof of insurance is kind of an easy thing to have on the blockchain, because when construction workers or a painter comes to the house, or someone who has to have insurance to do the job, it's always been a pain for them to get the paperwork, show the paperwork, validate the paperwork. Now, basically through an app, they can show whoever's hiring them that they actually have current proof of insurance. So it will really streamline that piece of the insurance industry.
Cool. Yeah, Marsh has I think, a very impressive blockchain department. And I think you guys are doing some cutting edge stuff there. So. And then we have Chase from Cronus. Chase, you want to mind introducing yourself and telling us what Chase is, or excuse me, what Cronus is up to?
Yeah, Chase Castle. I am the government for Cronus. We're a global cybersecurity company dual headquartered in Switzerland and Singapore. Thanks, Jay, for hosting us today. Cronus is trying to lead on R&D, and we're really interested in hearing the discussion today on blockchain, utilizing blockchain data authentication in our software right now. And I'm just really excited to be here and hear a really robust discussion. So thanks.
Cool, thank you. And for those of you that might not be familiar with Cronus, Sergey, whose last name I can't pronounce, who was the founder of Cronus, was in town for the opening of your office in Tempe, and he announced that they are building a $50 million R&D center here in Arizona that will have a lot of focus on blockchain. So Cronus is doing some really cool stuff. And
Can you say where the location of that center is?
We have it's right now. Yeah, it's a so right now we're about 65 employees, but we're really going to be expanding our operation.
Yeah, and that's their office right now is at Priest and Washington. Cronus SES, which does governmental, which is a separate company, does governmental operations. Yeah. And they are at about 64th Street and Thomas. And then there's another company that's sort of a sister company to Cronus and Cronus SES, which is called ChainStack. And they have basically an easy way to get introduced and build things on various blockchains, including multi-chain, Quorum, Ethereum, and so forth. And we've experimented with some of the ChainStack services through the Arizona Blockathon and so forth. So anyway, there might be other people that I'm overlooking. I apologize for that. This Hoy is, yes.
Hi, my name is Wei. I run a product innovation lab and mainly help the non-tech founders, but leveraging the data, digital transformation, AI, and blockchain technology. So we basically upgrade to that and then make them the solutions gold.
Awesome.
I just gave a presentation on that. You're awesome.
Check out what's
So, yeah, I would like to introduce Peter too, Peter Casa, who's a co-founder of Ball2, which is, in my opinion, the premier virtual reality, augmented reality shop in Arizona. And they've worked closely with NASA in the past, and I think in the wearables range, realm, and in training and so forth, there's some really cool things on the horizon. And I think there's a lot of interesting use cases around blockchain and virtual reality.
Oh, absolutely.
So
One of the things that we've been discussing a lot is just about we deal a lot with interfacing with 3D, and now there's if you know there's a plethora of 3D digital assets that are coming online, even toys, things like that. How do you basically authenticate what is yours and what's not? And then I feel like I have like a way to kind of redeem myself because I used to be in the music industry, and it's really sad to see like, hey, I got a million plays and I got, like $200, where I feel like the future of digital definitely ties in with a lot of blockchain. So.
for sure. Cool. So are there any questions at this point? I'm going to go through my little presentation to kind of tee this up and set the stage for the conversation. And then, let's see. Let's do the screen share. This. Sorry, I should have had this teed up a little bit better.
Yeah, we were thinking we're gonna do some blockchain, and then we're gonna have some stand-up comedy for about the last half hour.
I actually did one performance of stand-up comedy on my chronic addiction to extra chunky, super chunk Skippy peanut butter. My cousin. So anyway, this. Okay. So the exciting part, the exciting opportunity that we have with House Bill 2747 is to not only have collaboration, but also have funded collaboration. And that's a big difference. We talk about collaboration a lot, but usually it's just sort of informal collaboration. And there isn't the glue of funding to sort of bring it all together. And so let's make this load. Hopefully that can be seen. So I see this funding mechanism and this legislation as a way to bring some of the realms together in terms of academics, enterprise, startups, maybe, and public administration, and leveraging the resources and expanding innovation. That's just a kind of a graphic for Arizona. Let me go back to this because AJ is going to have a presentation. He's going to show some of the legislation that's going on around the country in 2019. And I was absolutely shocked at how many states have passed legislation that's blockchain centric and involved. So we are kind of in a race with many areas, not only in the United States, but also around the world. But here's just kind of a diagram that maps out the separate areas that have been sort of siloed in the past, the academics, the enterprise, public administration, startups, and shows the possibility that these things could start to work together through this. And in particular, focus on and leverage and foster talent in Arizona, because I think that's one of the key pieces that we really need to consider. And the talent, I would break the talent into 3 areas. One is technical, obviously, and the technical talent in the blockchain and distributed ledger and decentralized space, I would say it's pretty scarce. But above and beyond that, the second is entrepreneurial, because we're really at a point in this evolution where we need to create use cases and applications that can actually go to market that solve people's needs. And that's been kind of a key missing. We kind of got ahead of ourselves with the ICOs and this enormous wealth that was created just out of, you know, things going from 25 cents to $1,000, which nothing wrong with that. It's just the actual use cases, the operation, are still way behind. But the third is in design. So really the design component of blockchain, of this decentralized space, is really, really a key element in terms of how's the human interface going to work on this thing. Because it's, for the most part, it's been way, way too complicated for most people to be able to navigate this. So this is an email, and this presentation will be available to you. But basically, September 30th is the deadline for the applications. I did get a ping from Jeff Winninger, who was one of the drivers behind this legislation, and he's working on another round of this for next year's legislation. So I would look at this as like a starting point and not just the be-all and end-all for the opportunity set. And then funds could actually be dispersed as early as October 30th. Could you give me a code? Oh, what? That's perfect.
Is he okay?
Set the candle floating up.
Sure. Isn't that amazing how a candle can float in it's just. So here's the application. AJ is going to go over this.
Yes.
Here's our meetup, and you can see and connect with the people that are here tonight through the meetup. And then this is just an introduction of the other folks speaking tonight, and that's basically it. But I would like to emphasize that this is I just request everybody to think of this as a catalyst, as a spark, and don't worry about, you know, the 5-day deadline. Don't worry about, are you eligible or not. The real opportunity is in a bigger picture where we can come together and start to collaborate on things that might seem a little uncomfortable because everybody's used to proprietary and, you know, I'm going to patent this and all that. This space is different. And this space is growing so fast, it's so broad that nobody can do it by themselves. collaboration is key to making progress in this area. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Randy Gustafson, who's with the Arizona Commerce Authority. And Randy, if you'll tell us a little bit about, you know, your role in this and the Arizona Commerce Authority, and also feel free to talk about the other things that the ACA has available for funding and so forth.
Fantastic. Thank you, Jay. My name is Randy Gustafson, Senior Vice President of Innovation at the ACA. I've been there for almost 7.5 years. And for those of you that may or may not know, we are the economic development arm for the state of Arizona, chaired by the governor. In fact, the Cronus is one of our customers who we help to attract here from our business traction folks. We also have folks who work on expanding companies already here. And then the team that I work with is all entrepreneurs in the startup community for companies with proprietary technology or developing proprietary technology. There's a lot of different programs that we'll do. I'll highlight a couple of them just because there's timeliness that coincidentally is involved, whether you're here for blockchain, which we see a lot of, or other technologies, because at the end of the day, we're relatively technology agnostic. But obviously, certain technologies are bigger than others or more prolific in the state compared to others. We have the Arizona Innovation Challenge, which is one of the largest business plan competitions in the country, where we typically run it twice a year and award $3 million to up to 20 companies. When we run each round, it's $1.5 million that can be awarded in grant, non-dilutive funding to up to 10 winning companies. Very competitive, 100 to 200 applications each time. And it's about a 2 or 3 page business plan where you have to boil down your life into those pages along the idea of a rubric. And it just so happens that the latest round is currently open, fall 2019, but the deadline for it is this Friday at 5 p.m. A lot of times people can get an application in that quickly, and 90% of the applications come in on Friday anyways, just the way it works. That's what happens in pitch competitions. But if you were to win, you enter our Venture Ready Accelerator program, which takes anywhere from 9 to 12 months. And whether it's a seasoned 4-times entrepreneur or kids who just graduated from college not too long ago and have the right proposition, a lot of people find a lot of value in that. So we've awarded millions of dollars to a portfolio of 90 companies, and we'll be looking for our next 10 companies. So in certain ways, our portfolio is bigger than most of the VCs in Arizona and all of that. We also have the Angel Tax Credit Program. So if you are an investor or trying to raise money for a qualified company, then there is still money left in that budgeted, legislatively driven program. We have about $950,000 left. That's a first come, first serve, for as long as the company is certified and the investor is accredited and has an Arizona tax liability, they can save 30 to 35% off of the Arizona tax liability. There's many other partnerships that we do. Tim is going to talk about some stuff. He happens to be intimately involved in our programming and vice versa in certain aspects. But feel free to go to our website. All of the details on the Innovation Challenge are there. About half our companies who apply, about half of the tech ecosystem in Arizona is software related. And Chase and I were having a good conversation. More and more, you see blockchain as kind of almost check the box with what companies are doing in the background, whether they're developing supply chain types of software or big data plays or whatever. We see it more and more and more. So that's kind of my story relative to that. Now, because of my role, I work with those programs, but I'm also personally shifting for us to add more focus with corporate venture. So anything that has to do with bigger corporations getting more involved in the startup community through our programs and otherwise, and that includes the universities and academic institutions, I'm getting more involved with that. We're developing strategies as we speak. By coincidence, I was asked to be here tonight because the ACA, from that email that Jake just showed, we are sort of the managers of the process for this Applied Research Center bill, or HB 2747. And so I am not the manager, I'm kind of the messenger, but I know a fair amount about the program between myself and AJ and others and their understanding. We can probably answer most of your questions, but if not, I know exactly where you need to go to put you in touch, just in case you were going to try to go to that program in the next 5 days, or maybe you're in the middle of kind of applying for it. But I'm here primarily to represent that, but Jay's kind enough to let me talk about the other stuff that we're involved with at the ACA.
Cool. Thank you, Randy.
Honor to be here, though. Thank you.
And that dovetails with Tim Kelly, who's the chairman of Invest Southwest and Canyon Angels, and also with GCU. Basically runs their entrepreneurship program. And anything I'm missing, Tim? And,
I have preschools too.
oh yeah,
Nice.
yeah, that's really cool.
That's my wife, actually.
Yeah, you have a Spanish program. Right?
Correct. Spanish immersion preschool called Little Big Minds.
Awesome. Very cool. So, you want to talk a little bit about Invest?
You want me to say something? That's my so I've been part of Grand Canyon University now for just over 8 years, my 9th year now. And we've had a bit of growth over the last 10 years, if you haven't noticed. We're now at 22,500 students on our main campus, 79,000 online. 15,000 of those kids live on campus, that is within a 6-block radius of here. We're up to about 400 acres now on campus. We've invested over $1.5 billion into this physical campus. We'll put in another $500 million in the next 3 to 4 years. The goal is to bring it into a multiple degree program. We just launched our engineering program, computer science, computer programming, software engineering, electrical engineering, biomedical engineering, and mechanical engineering. Those programs are all achieving certification as we speak. It's really just a fascinating roller coaster ride. I suppose I've been running a private equity fund for 10 years. I've been an entrepreneur in my own right, lived in 10 countries and 5 continents, built 12 businesses, more or less, depends on how you define them sometimes. Construction, facilities, education, real estate, finance, software, and preschool. So that's kind of my background. That's what I've been doing for the last many decades. And, Jay and I have been friends I've been following you around really for about 3-4 years now, trying to learn what the hell it is that Jay really does.
We all do that.
No, not yet. No clue. I'm still in the dark, literally. Here.
And when you tell me, when you figure it out, tell me.
But really, I've so admired what Jay has done with Desert Blockchain over the years and trying to spread what the value is of distributed ledger systems. The very nature of blockchain, which to so many of us, to steal a word, seems too cryptic to understand. Thank you for what you do in that sense, and happy to be a part of this.
Tim, what recommendations would you have for a startup in Arizona for funding, or to interface with either Canyon Angels or Invest Southwest? What are your tips for that? And then I've got a follow-up question regarding GCU.
So what I typically preach is that you don't want to go out and raise money from investors if you don't have to. So first and foremost, anything you can do to tweak your business model to be funded by your customers first, before you have expenses. We call it negative networking capital to earn your MBA for the evening. You say that at a cocktail party and they'll think you're smart. What we really, it's all about doing is so that you can be in as much control of your enterprise as possible and be able to adapt as quickly as possible to markets. So often we get bogged down as entrepreneurs in raising capital from third parties, and we literally lose sight of the ball itself and where the market shifted and end up missing the mark altogether. That's the first line that I always hope that we can achieve, bootstrapping wherever possible along that framework. Before you even go to mom and dad, friends and family, crowdfunding, Kickstarter campaigns in particular, I think are fantastic tools where you can actually have potential customers not only validate your business model, but also fund your startup. So those are amazing tools that really didn't even exist just a decade ago. I know the ICO market is 95% fraud, or you guys can give me insights into what all that looks like. I don't know. I think it will be very much the future.
I think it's actually like
98% are we up to now? Okay, good. I think it's fascinating. I do believe that equity markets for maximum liquidity and maximum diversification will move toward that type of a blockchain platform. Obviously, we're not there yet. Maybe you all will make that happen. From there, raising money from angel associations like our Little Canyon Angels. We're one of 3 in the state. There's Desert Angels in Tucson that are probably among the most sophisticated in the country, certainly in the state here. Arizona Tech Investors, which is really a great group. Jim Gulka's a rock star. They fund probably 5 to 10 million in deals a year. Our Little Canyon Angels, we are a separate nonprofit, but partnered with Grand Canyon so that I can get students to do free labor work for us. They get to learn in the process. So they do due diligence, deal screening. We operate here on campus in our innovation center here. We run about 6 to 9 events a year. We tend to screen between 10 to 40 companies a month. We select 3 to 5 to pitch at our monthly events. We have about a 30% fund rate right now, which is calculated today, and I was kind of surprised. I didn't think we were funding that high of a percentage, but it seems to be that our group is getting more and more active. The typical investment size is just under $100,000. To date, we funded about 20 enterprises in the last 18 months or so, just about 2.5 million. So
cool. Yeah, I would really like to echo what you said, Tim, about validating your business and funding your business through bootstrapping. I think, believe me, I've been an entrepreneur for a long time, and that is far and away the best way to do it. A little pitch for Desert Blockchain is we have focused completely on the Patreon citizen program, and I'm looking for ways to create benefits for you, the community, so that this is truly a decentralized initiative that's funded by the community for the community. And you know, I even take it so far as I don't go out and solicit sponsorships. It's really intended to be as Swiss neutral as possible and funded by the community. So please let me know what you would like to see as a benefit that would be worth $10 a month to be part of Desert Blockchain, because that is the primary focus for this. So, Tim, switching to GCU, what opportunities are there for startups, enterprises to work with GCU, to interface with GCU, and basically leverage that community academic involvement?
So aside from business degrees and maybe engineering support or other technical support you might get from our students, alumni, faculty, those relationships, we want to be good neighbors and foster them wherever possible. Really, there's probably 3 main points of interaction. Number 1, the newest, is our innovation center. We're going to change the name because there's another school in town that says something about innovation being number 1 for them. So we're going to rebrand. I don't know what it's going to be, but we'll see what we spend some money on. That is essentially a co-working space where we encourage, we invite companies at all stages, from startups to projects of larger corporations, to those in revenue. We prefer in revenue, but we're not picky at this point. The idea is that you can come, we'll give you free space, office, key, furniture, Wi-Fi, electricity, 24/7 access. You can use our gym, you can go to the hotel next door. You can have to buy your own drinks, but you can do so. And the only criteria is that you hire a GCU student. So far, we have 22 companies in as of today. This is like week 3.5. 22 companies in, just over 50 employees hired. And the goal of that center is to have hundreds of companies and thousands of students working. My motto is a business degree without business is in one ear out the other. You have to be learning while doing business. So we're attempting to shift the model of historical traditional education where it's sage on the stage. You shoot for a little grade point average, whatever it might be, and really get practical work experience as part of the baseline of every student that enters freshman on. So that's number one. Number two is we have what's called the New Business Development Center, and this is a group that's been active for about 2.5 years. It's out of the College of Business, but we reach out to the largely immigrant community, but the community at large at the very informal market stage. These are people that are entrepreneurs, but haven't taken those steps to truly formalize and then potentially scale their entities. And so we run them through a 8-week boot camp. We offer it free. We offer it in English and Spanish to the community. We've had, I think, over 400 different companies go through that in those last 24 months. And we're going to roll that out again. We partner with groups like Seed Spot, with Hustle Phoenix, multiple other groups that we then kind of pass them off to. Kimberly Lanning's group as well for Local First. That's number two. Number three is our Canyon Angel Group. And really that's a source of funding. We're looking for organizations that already have a proven business model. We'll listen early, but we want to see business model that has validation. It can be pre-revenue, but there needs to be some traction that we can measure to validate. We depend very much on groups like the AIC, the Arizona Innovation Challenge from the ACA, that has done so much in the last 6 years to improve the quality of companies that are emerging out of our ecosystem. It gives them a gauntlet, a discipline, a focus. They get some open, objective critique of what they're really doing that kind of kicks those all-know-it entrepreneurs into a bit of a reality check, keeps them grounded moving forward. There's groups like Venture Madness as well, which partners with the ACA. That's another business plan competition. All of these groups award tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars, in fact millions of dollars to startups. That's non-equity, meaning this is money that's out there that you can earn by telling a really good story, showing validation, getting your pitch down, and use that grant money to validate your enterprise. From there, you then can come into the windows of a group like Canyon Angels. We syndicate across the 3 groups here in Arizona, but we also syndicate the Tech Coast Angels of California, Rocky Ventures, Colorado. We partner with Irish Angels, my favorite one, out of Notre Dame. We just flew a guy in from North Dakota. Who knew? There's an entrepreneur up there. He's got a really fascinating drone business for asset mapping, damage control.
Is that the senator from, he's like a minority leader?
No, I don't know. I don't think he's in politics at all.
Oh, okay.
No, this guy's name is Josh.
Another guy that's doing the same thing, North Dakota.
Really?
Yeah.
Apparently it's a little mecca up there. I guess they don't have to worry about them dropping on people.
Yeah.
But so we partner with all these different angel groups because our challenge, our goal as an angel network is to bring the highest quality investment opportunities to our members. And we get the residual benefit of teaching students what these companies really are all about. Not specifically. I've been trying to rope in Jay to help me make that happen. I'm sorry, would you repeat the question?
Question is, is there a blockchain initiative?
Yeah, not formal. We're just kicking up the computer science. We just got an AR lab, a VR lab. No formal blockchain yet, but hopefully soon.
All right, thank you, Tim. All right, I'll turn it, unless there's other questions for Tim or Randy, I'm gonna turn it over to AJ. And let me, AJ, why don't you introduce yourself while I queue up your presentation here.
Hi, everyone. My name is AJ Gilman. For those of you who haven't met me, if you have, I'm very, very sorry. 21 years old right now. You know, you've been doing something for 7 years. I've been able to drink legally for 3 months. So that's pretty great. So I am a recent ASU grad from the ASU School of Law, St. O'Connor College of Law. I was with the Center for Law, Science, and Innovation, where I received the Strauss Pride for Excellence. And I currently work at the McCall Garrison Law Group, which is an intellectual property firm that now specializes in emerging technologies. And I will talk a little bit more about that at the end. My research has delved into everything from current mind control devices to blockchain to genetics to nanoterrorism to virtual reality to treatment of juveniles and neurochemicals in courts. So I jump around a bit. I have a lot of fun. And I love hanging out with you guys and meeting all these really amazing people. I actually just spoke with an attorney from the Arizona Commerce Authority named Michael Kellis this afternoon about this House bill. And he gave me some great insights, and I'm hoping to give you guys some insights. Now, I know what you're thinking. Oh, great, a legal person trying to talk about requirements and eligibility in law. I promise you I won't put you to sleep, probably. Just bear with me. So,
Tell me when it changed.
I will. So, House Bill 2747. I'm here to get a bit into the nitty gritty about what it is, what are the requirements to get the money, how much money there is, and then to do what legal professionals do and summarize it into a form that makes sense. So, let's start getting into that. So, quick background. They actually passed 2747 on May 31st of this year. So it's pretty recent. The bill appropriated funds for a lot of uses. If you read the bill, they only mention the word blockchain 3 times, but the bill is very, very long. So, yes, exactly. So, however, this is not the first blockchain law that was passed this year. In fact, as Jay mentioned, a lot of states are trying to get into blockchain. In fact, if you look at House Bill 1944 in Arkansas, they have now, oh. Okay.
Switch to this, if you don't mind,
Sure.
because I think it's pretty amazing.
Sure. So this is a list of all of the blockchain laws that have been passed recently. I'm not going to go through all of these, but you should all have my PowerPoint. You want to read it? Totally do that. It's cool. So, for example, Arkansas 1944, this basically says that a signature on a blockchain is now an actual signature for contract purposes, which if you're a lawyer, like we have a couple lawyers in the crowd here, that does make a difference. SB 373 in California is pretty interesting. It says you can have a birth certificate issued on blockchain now. And note that is a temporary thing, but means they're exploring, means that these governments are acknowledging that blockchain is a thing. So things are changing, things are moving. It's really good to see that. It's good to see.
I'm going to just scroll through this just to give you a flavor for the amount of activity that's happening around the country.
This is on your.
My PowerPoint. Yep. It's second slide. There's a link right there. Jay?
I'll post the PowerPoint to this video as well as on the meetup.
What's NCSL? National.
Oh,
Not completely sure.
Oh.
But again, we're not going to go through all this right now
Yeah,
because I said I
it's-
wouldn't put you to sleep, and I won't.
I mean, look at this. It's almost like every state now is delving into blockchain-related legislation. So, I mean, this is truly not only a United States phenomenon, but a global phenomenon. And, you know, again, to highlight, this is why it's critical for our formerly separate and siloed realms to start to come together and collaborate around this, because there is no way we can do this on our own. So
Create a blockchain for the laws in different states for blockchain.
that's right.
Yeah, I know that we will
Blockchain of
discuss.
blockchain. So anyway,
Let's back to the topic at hand.
yep. So
Hold the lever, Jay.
there you go.
Excellent. So that's my background for this. You can scroll through it at your own time. And okay, so how much money does 2747 actually give us? So if you look at 2747, it was established under a law, and I might misquote the section, it's 18421B, which is the state portal funding law, which says in relevant part that they have the right to appropriate funds to facilitate the development of information technology and wearable technology and some other tech. And so they actually appropriated in this bill $2.5 million. Of that, half of it, so $1.25 million, was appropriated just for blockchain. $750,000 of it was appropriated for wearable technologies, and $500,000 of it was appropriated for automated mobility. And in case you were wondering, the automated mobility money was appropriated for a specific institute called the, am I getting this right, the Automated Mobility Institute?
Yes, the Institute of Automated
Sorry, the Institute of Automated
That's what they
Mobility.
were, I am.
I promise I can English today. So what we are going to focus on, because we are Desert Blockchain, we have a lot of blockchain people, I figured I'd talk about what you need to get the blockchain money. So let's talk about that 1.25 million.
Can I ask really quick?
Sure.
For the wearable technology, is it hardware specifically, or is it also include software?
I believe it includes both.
I think it includes any technology as long as it's directly tied to it, to where.
I am not actually an expert on the wearable technology section. I've heard on the blockchain. But if you'd like to reach out to me later, maybe we can work that out. All right.
And while we're on the wearables, there is actually a center set up by the PEI, which is, I can't remember. What is it? Partnership for Economic Innovation. For just through GPEC, the Greater Phoenix Economic Council, and that's over at Park Central, and it's devoted to wearables.
And I'm just now starting to get involved in some of that too, PEI and all that. So the definition of wearables for this, I just brought my cheat
Yes,
notes.
there is actually,
to
have it
help,
defined.
refers generally to any manufactured element or system intended to attach to or be connected with the human body that defends, enhances, or supplements the human body's natural abilities or characteristics, that generates environmental or biological data relative to the human body, or that otherwise incorporates technological applications or innovations of whatever type or nature to provide such enhancement or information. That's the longest definition by far.
Yeah, I was about to say, definitions like that.
But it did say refers generally to any manufactured element. Yeah, there was some data stuff. So. Perfect.
Thank you so much.
Nice.
And if you need more clarification, our guide can go down a detailed path.
And out of the conversation that sparked from having this meetup and so forth, there is a major entity in town that I'm not going to name right now, but they are interested, and I'm going to be having a conversation with them before the end of the month, in wearable technology in a very interesting space. So if you have an interest in the wearable sector, there is a significant amount of activity that's going on.
Well, but I think we're going to focus on the blockchain tonight.
Yep.
So let's get into blockchain.
Can't you wear a blockchain?
Stop confusing me, Jay.
You can wear a computer, right? That's for
No, we're just going to implant them subcutaneously. All right. So moving on.
One of my relatives, every time I go to a party, he goes, "Jay, how's that chain link stuff going?"
He's a fencing guy.
I was actually a fencing guy. But so when you say the words free money, you get two kinds of reactions. The first reaction is, "Oh boy, sign me up." And the second reaction generally comes from the legal people. It's, "Well, what's the catch?" So that was my reaction initially. $1.25 million is a lot, so what's the catch? Here are the catches, and they are not that bad, actually. So in order to get this money, you must qualify something called an Applied Research Center. I will not be using that term again this presentation. We are abbreviating it ARC. So there are 6 requirements. The first requirement is pretty intuitive. You have to maintain a presence in Arizona, and you have to show expenditures on research and state. So what does this mean? It means the Arizona Commerce Authority wants you to be someone in Arizona to get their Arizona money. This is pretty reasonable, you know? In fact, you will have to file evidence of those expenditures along with certain other forms, but we will get to that in a little bit. Second thing you need, ARC, you need to have secured matching funds. Now, before I started talking, I had several people come up to me in the audience and ask me, what does matching funds mean? What do I have to do to get matching funds? Matching funds does not mean matching funds. And I conferred with Michael Kellis on this. It does not mean matching funds. So here's how it works. That $1.25 million that was appropriated, they can give it to you in something called an increment. Each increment is capped at $250,000. So if you apply, you can get up to $250,000 per application. And Michael Kellis said you can apply more than once, but it will be a separate application. In addition, you must provide evidence that you have money of $250,000 or more. So they can give you up to $250,000, but you must show them you already have at least that much money. So the best you're going to get is a 1-for-1 on the.
So if could we draw that out in an example? Let's say XYZ
Sure.
enterprise is
So-
going to team with ABC University.
Let me see if I can do this.
Okay.
All right, so J. Carpenter Incorporated is here to sell blockchain-enabled dog collars. We need these. He wants money. So he makes this application. The ACA says, great, we love your idea, Jay. You filed everything. Jay, let's say they gave you $170,000.
They being
The Arizona Commerce Authority. Out of this $1.25 million, you got $170,000 out of your maximum of $250,000.
okay.
You would still have to show them that you have $250,000 or more to match their contribution. No,
So no,
their
that's what I'm saying.
maximum is $250,000. They won't give you more, but you can't give them less.
So
I heard the minimum 250 can apply for multiple items today or next track. I spoke to the consultant. The minimum 250 cannot be below 250. Then you have to come up with 250 as well.
That is
That's
correct.
what
You
he's-
must.
that's
That's
what
exactly what I'm
That's
saying.
what he said.
So it's going to be a
But
matching
you do
on the
not,
minimum.
you do not have to submit an application for 250.
Yes.
If you so choose and said, I'm going to submit an application for $100,000, that is okay.
Yep.
But,
Yeah,
yeah,
250 minimum.
Yes, but you will stop to come up with 250 even if you ask for
so
less.
Grandma Carpenter has to write a check for 250. Yeah, but the Arizona Commerce Authority would only write a check for 1.7. Is basically what.
there's under certain conditions that would happen. We'll probably get to them, and if not, I'll make sure that's
Yeah,
covered with
make
how
sure
that
that-
can happen.
Yeah, I
Sounds
might
like
turn
it's
that.
like incentivizing research centers that are already have allocated monies.
Exactly, and we're actually going to get to that. Stop stealing my presentation. I prepared this. All right, so number 3 is the one that is the simplest requirement. You have to be doing blockchain research, which is intuitive. You know, they appropriated it for blockchain research. You probably have to do blockchain research to get the money. Not much more to say about that. 4 is a little complicated. Your ARC has to be run by someone who is known as a principal investigator. So what does this mean? Well, principal investigator is defined as the person who is the executive and director of your ARC. So it's the person in charge who's running your research. For ASU, for example, that would be Professor Gary Marchant, who runs the Center for Law, Science, and Innovation. So what do they have to have? They have to have these requirements. I'm going to read this. Substantively rigorous academic credentials and a history of intellectual contribution to the targeted technology. So translating that to English, you have to show that they've been doing this, that they've actually made some contributions, that they are experienced in the field. And in fact, you will have to file evidence of that person's credentials with the Arizona Commerce Authority, unless I am incorrect on that. Oh, I guess I'm right. All right, so moving on. We've got 2 more requirements.
be a requirement for that person investigating academia, or could be an outside, or anybody from outside?
Academic credentials.
Academic, I don't think they have to themselves be an academic. But I think that's referring to they have to have some sort of education. They have to have done some research in the area. They have to know something about blockchain. So number 5, you need to show evidence of collaboration with universities, nonprofit business associations, health science research centers, institutes, or other technology businesses. So you have to be collaborating with someone. If you want this money, you can't be going it solo. And that actually really weighs into what the Arizona Commerce Authority, what Randy's been talking about, where they've been trying to encourage collaboration. It really weighs into what Jay's been talking about, how we want to get everyone together and stop being in silos. And I honestly interpret that requirement as the ACA acknowledging that problem, that we've been very siloed. Am I overstepping?
I want to be careful speaking for where the legislation came from and all of that, but yes, the whole idea of collaboration in research, the idea is that the research is being done with eventually commercializable type of technology, but is going to help put us on the map as experts or a hub in the United States and or the world in that given technology. That's kind of what set the tone for this at a high level. Is we have 10 different technology areas that we're focusing on for the future and things like that. Things like blockchain are huge. You know that more than anyone. And this is an idea to enable that, and that is the kind of the goal. And collaboration, by definition, the way it was written, is completely in this. So I don't want to take away any of your thunder. I'd go further, but it'll come out. Yeah.
All right, we have one more requirement, and this is one that I had a little confusion on, and this is the reason I called up Michael Kellis, the attorney. You must be conducting research or planning to conduct research on a commercial product. You cannot be doing this for just an academic purpose. You cannot be saying, well, we kind of want to see like how we might govern blockchain, or would blockchain be nice for people? No, you have to be developing something. You just touched on that.
Literally, and it has to be applied research, literally.
And here was my question, and the question I got answered this afternoon. I asked Michael Kellis, does it have to be your commercial product? Because if it does, you can't be an academic institution. And he said, no, it does not. You just need to partner with someone, maybe that other technology business, who's trying to commercialize something. So I'd say these two together mean that there are 2 types of relationships that will really benefit from this funding. And the first is actual businesses who want to bring a product to market, who want to take advantage of the tremendous academic talent and knowledge here in our state. And then you have the research institutions who have the knowledge and have the research and may have some resources but want more, but that don't really have the manpower to commercialize. But in either situation, you're going to have to collaborate. And thankfully, it gives you some flexibility. So,
and if you don't mind, I'd like to dovetail on that a little bit
Sure.
more. It's kind of hit where I wanted to go, because I was asked this. I separately, having nothing to do with this, met with an entrepreneur friend, talking to him about our programs. He's a 4-time entrepreneur. They are a business completely built on blockchain payment systems. His co-founder has raised over $300 million on a national level, heavy hitters, and he said, could I apply for this? And I go, it is not designed for companies. Even though you're doing your R&D to commercialize your specific product, that's not what it was intended for. And by the time you go through the other factors that AJ just went through, you don't have a principal investigator on your staff. You aren't demonstrating on some higher level research that has already been ongoing. You aren't partnered with a bunch of people, and could you do that within days, get an application? So the idea is the creation of, or the existence really of, this ubiquitous term that they're calling applied research center that is demonstrating the collaboration, because it's real easy for you who may be part of companies or foreign companies to go, oh, can I do that? Yeah, you have to be collaborated and partnered in a much just trying to commercialize your specific technology.
So if we, for example, we have
At
an
least
R&D
that's the
department.
intention.
If we have like an R&D department of our company, and then I know for a fact that partnering, for example, with the research individual at ASU, it costs $75,000 for a year of postdoc or grad student.
Yep.
So you basically partner with them to show that there's collaboration,
Yes.
and then you have some accessibility to funds.
Yes. Although, mind you, you would still have to have that principal investigator. So you would need to have someone on your staff as the applicant who has those academic credentials.
So
And then the use of funds, for example, now we get to a different level, like can't be used to pay the management.
right.
It's really got to be working capital doing the hardcore.
Yeah. And in
R&D.
fact,
But you're thinking along it the more correct way of how a company can even kind of get involved.
and
for
we're
this.
getting a little bit ahead of ourselves because there are some ongoing requirements that I'm going to discuss a little bit later, which aren't that bad, but they should be mentioned.
Yeah.
So here is my,
Before you move on,
sure. Do
slide,
you want to go back?
you
Sure.
mentioned that you had to commercialize the product. Who owns the product?
You own the product. The ACA does not take your product, and as most notably, they don't take your IP rights. As someone in an IP firm, that is happy news for me.
Yeah.
But
We have no interest.
I swear, everyone's getting ahead of me tonight.
What's IP?
Intellectual property. Good question. I will stop abbreviating. So moving on. Here is my summary slide. This is roughly why I'm here. So some things that are real takeaways. You need to be here in Arizona to take advantage of this. So I know a Cronus, for example, might be able to meet a lot of these requirements. But if you're based out of the country or even out of the state, you are less likely to have access to these funds. I'm not saying it's a complete fatal factor, but it's going to make it harder. You need to already have some money. If you have absolutely no money to your name, you cannot apply for this because you need to be able to come up with that $250,000 minimum of matching funds. Even if you were asking for 20 bucks for a blockchain burrito, you need to buy some Raspberry Pis, you still need to come up with that money. Because no matter how much they give you, you still have a minimum that you have to match.
And part of the evidence, the requirement is, it's the evidence that you are doing research in the state of Arizona.
Yes.
Which gets.
And actually, and beyond that, not only do you have to be doing research in Arizona, your expenditures on that research must be in Arizona. So you can't pay for your research materials and experiments elsewhere and then just move it here and do it. You actually have to buy it here.
I have to do my research in Bermuda.
Well,
Sounds like the hedge fund.
that's to say, or you can see that again. Something I'm happy about, and I touched on this. You don't have to be the one commercializing the product. I won't harp on this too much, but if you can't bring a commercial product to market, you can find someone who can or who wants to and partner with them and benefit from this. So my slide got a little cut off. Ultimately, there are a lot of people who could benefit from this. Oh, go back. I'm not done.
Sorry.
There are a lot of people who can benefit from this, but I wanted to highlight some people who I think will have more trouble. So first of all, academic institutions without commercial products or partners. Again, you can't go it solo. You need to have a commercial purpose. And, a lot of academics enjoy, I did this. I wrote a lot of papers on, well, is it ethical to have a mind control device? Should we consider genetics in court? Can't get funding for that. Has to be more concrete. Research institutes without commercial projects or partners is the exact same thing. You need to have something concrete. You need to be working towards something that's going to hit the market, it's going to hit the consumers. It's going to actually build a market. Small startups. This one may be a little sad, but not everyone has $250,000 under their mattress. Not everyone has a grandma Carpenter who will write them that check. So crowdfunding is a thing. And Tim talked about ways to raise money, and that would be a path to pursue. if you want to get this funding, you'll need to have some of your own first. And the little cutoff part at the bottom, you see the white bottom. So that is groups, startups, who are composed largely of new talent. So students who want to start up a business out of school, or, you know, startups from a hackathon. Jay and I know a little about that. You need to have that principal investigator. And that's going to need to be someone who's been doing this for a while. So unfortunately, if you know, you and your college buddies have this great idea and you just need that funding, and happens that one of those college buddies is Stan Lee's grandson and owns half of Marvel. So even if the money's not an issue, you need to find someone who's been doing this and who can spearhead that for you. All right.
So
Next.
you basically have to provide a portfolio, like a CV, of showing your past research, and it has to be, that's really the thing that really backs everything.
I'm not sure it has to strictly be a CV, but yeah, it's the right idea. You got to show that they've done something here before.
Okay, yeah.
So lunch isn't completely free. It's a pretty good lunch, but it's not completely free. So let's say you meet all these requirements. You got the money, you got the talent, you got the partner, you got the products, you're based in Arizona, and you are in fact doing blockchain research. Next step is filing a couple forms. There we go. So there are 2 forms that you really need to follow, I can English, that you need to file, in addition to having to file evidence of those things. And a lot of that, you'll notice it's listed here. You have to attach collaboration, matching funds, you have the research and testing, you have the principal investigator credentials right there. You have to attach something called a W-9 form, which is a tax form, not a tax attorney. But this is the form, and you can read through that, and you'll have to give some information about yourself and make some statements about eligibility. So,
And I will state for the W-9 form, it is a specific ACA form that's required to be used. We do it with our companies who we award money to. It's not, you probably already have a W-9 by definition with your company. It's not that. It has to fit certain gates and information that's necessary for public funds to be distributed.
it is,
Yeah.
this is the exact form. I took it off their website and I screenshotted it.
Yeah.
These are the exact forms.
W-9.
W-9. This is the substitute W-9 and vendor authorization form. This is the form. The one on the left is the W-9 form. The one on the right is just the application form. You will have to submit them together. And you'll have to check all of those 6 boxes right there. Have all the things that the boxes ask you to have.
And those have to be attached, because when you submit it, all of the stuff to demonstrate the evidence of the 6 steps all goes in at the same time.
So, get those forms in and you're on your way to applying. Click. Oh, go back one, please. Okay, so some things to keep in mind. If you've met all the requirements, you've submitted your forms, they said yes, and you've got your money. Congratulations. But you're not done with the ACA. You don't get to just say, okay, guys, thanks, have a good day.
13 black.
Yeah, no. I still don't have to go to Vegas. You need to submit annual reports for spending and performance. That is, I don't recall if there was an exact date you have to submit them each year, but I recall it is the day you receive it, and then
A year and on the
Annual, yeah.
anniversary thereafter of when you receive it.
note that no matter when you technically do receive this, this is a 3-year grant that terminates on September 15th, 2022. On that date, you are required to return any money from the grant that you have not spent, and you will have to give them a form that accounts for any money that you have spent and any money you have encumbered. So for people who do not speak legalese, that means if you borrowed money from another source, then you secured it with the money. somehow have it as part of a debt. You really need to submit the W-9. I wanted to hit home, you have to submit their W-9, not any W-9. It's the ACA's W-9. So make sure you have the right form. Bonus, thing that again made me very happy, does not affect your IP rights. A lot of the biggest concerns when someone gives you money to develop something is a doctrine we call work made for hire. In layman's terms, it basically says that they pay you money, and in exchange, you give up all your intellectual property in whatever you made. So it is no longer yours. It is not your invention. This is not that. You keep your intellectual property. The Arizona Commerce Authority does not get it at all. In fact, if you read their eligibility guidelines, they have a nice big conspicuous paragraph that says exactly this. It says, your intellectual property shall be governed pursuant to any agreement between the Applied Research Center and its collaborative universities, nonprofit business associations, health science research centers, institutes, or other technology businesses, as the case may be. Put simply, you write the agreement that governs your IP, they don't do it for you. So whatever you guys agree to do is what happens, which is really nice. It's a lot of freedom. So, concluding on the next slide. Excellent. In getting this money, the hard part is the eligibility requirements. It is a little steep. You got to meet some actual thresholds. But once you get that money, once you meet those requirements, the ongoing requirements, reporting once a year, is not hard. You don't lose your IP. You're not a slave of the Arizona Commerce Authority. They're actually very nice people. I really enjoyed talking to them.
I'll give you your friendship usually.
Yes, excellent. But so no, ultimately, the common concern of money that you have too much oversight, or that you have, you lose some of your freedom or some of your soul, is not here. So this is pretty good. This is actually a pretty good deal. And I'm going to hit this home one more time. I said I wouldn't harp on it, but I'm going to. It doesn't have to be your commercial project. Just has to mean that one of the partners here has to be doing that commercial project. And if we're going to play with the language a little, they said, or be planning to. So even if they are not going to roll out the product tomorrow, you can still be partnering with them and still get these funds.
The main thing is that it's moving toward commercialization. It isn't just general academic research.
The 250, does that, that you have to match? Can that be a pool of funds? I'm going to collect it.
You just have to show availability of that
You
money.
show availability. I think it doesn't necessarily matter what it is, but you have to show that you have it now, that it's available. You're covered.
Yeah, if
So
you show
or
them,
you're encumbered, like you may not have it, but the obligation's there that all I got to do is, reach out to that entity, boom, the check is written. Kind of a thing.
showing
Without
them an
getting into the
unscratched lottery
legal
ticket.
So what are some of the opportunity sets, some of the collaboration opportunities you see out of this vehicle? And even if we're not talking about this year's, let's say teeing it up for next year, what's the opportunity set?
A couple things. Do you mind if I stay on this? I do want to go ahead and say a couple of things about the funding that we sort of covered a little bit, but you might find it interesting. So
I'm going to stop the screen share.
we did say that you are technically, whatever the entity is allowed to ask for less than 250. It's just in general, you can't ask for more than 250 in any increment, any single increment, and that the ACA with that 1.25 million for blockchain cannot give an increment of more than $250,000 by this increment thing that we're calling $250,000. Now, what this is not a competitive thing. In fact, we don't even like to use the word grant. We call it more of a distribution. Any entities that apply, for lack of a better word, I don't know how else to say it, but that fill out the notification form and meets all the requirements will get funded. The difference is it depends how many of those applications are hence received. Even though you can do less, my gut is most entities that are formalized are going to ask for 250. So let's make it easy math. If 5 entities apply for $250,000 and they're all approved, and we have 30 days with which to make that determination from September 30th, and whether you applied 3 weeks ago or tomorrow, you're all considered in that equal pot of the submission window of September 30th. Then all of you will receive $250,000 in matching funds. And that means that when you do the reporting, it isn't just on the 250 that you secured for yourself, because in a way you're actually doing the match. It also includes the 250 you got from the ACA. So you have to count for $500,000 by the end of, by the July of 2022. Now, just to keep the math simple, but you can figure it out. If 10 entities apply, all for $250,000, and they all meet the requirements, and they are all approved, then the amounts that each entity gets is hereby prorated to the appropriate amount. So you would only get 125 of the 250 you asked for, meaning your net funds that you secured yourself and were matched by this program would be $375,000.
And may I touch on something?
Yes.
When I was talking to Michael Kellis, he seemed to want me to bring something up. If you are eligible for funds under the $1.25 million blockchain grant, you apply and are eligible. This does not preclude eligibility for any of the other appropriated funds for the furtherance of information technology or wearables. You can, in fact, double dip and apply for $250,000 of blockchain money and $250,000 of wearable technology money. This is something you can do.
If only 2 would qualify, granted, what happens to the remaining?
I was waiting for that. So good question. So what happens is September 30th hits. Let's say only 2 entities apply for 250. They would therefore be matched at the full amount of 250, which would remove 500,000 from the 1.25. That remaining 750 will sit there until or if other entities thereby apply after those initial awards have occurred. And in that regard, we're always careful to use this term, it's effectively a first come, first served basis. So each day that goes by, if another entity comes in and goes, hey, we are going to apply for 100,000, and they meet the requirements, and they say they applied on November 12th, then we have 30 days to determine when they applied, but they would get the 100,000. That game continues until the full 1.25 is effectively used up. Now, if multiple companies thereby apply and there's less funds remaining than they applied for, we go back to the pro rata game. But each individual day counts as like its own tranche, and it's a first come, first served in case the full 1.25 is not allocated.
The door is open.
It is. If funding exists, the door stays open. Correct. And my gut is that's not going to happen, or that wouldn't last very long, but that is how it's handled, and the legislation covers that.
I thought the money was going to be, I thought any of the remaining money was going to be used to fund a big trip to Maui for everyone in the ACA.
So if,
That would get us in trouble.
if I'm approaching a corporate partner with money, I can't say if you put 250 in and we qualify, we're going to get 250.
Correct.
I have no idea how much I'm going to
That is correct. Because it's not a first come, first serve until it's used up, at least on that initial tranche that we're talking about. And the idea and the reason for the increments of 250 is to effectively spread the funding to more entities to help empower the entire industry within the state of Arizona.
And do a partner use the same mark?
I would see no reason why they couldn't, but they'd have to pick what entity they're applying.
Okay, they're doing that. You're applying separately, but they could use the same mark, like you new innovation lab for blockchain.
That I guess in theory could happen. I believe that would be allowed. Let's start.
And Randy, do you have any idea when it will be announced what the results.
I don't know how it will be announced. All I can simply say is we have 30 days to make the determinations. I'm not sure it would be announced. That's over what it would be, but the organization will clearly be notified. Yes or no. They'll know where they stand by within days of September 30th, if not September 30th, October 30th,
October,
if not before.
October 1st, would we be able to inquire, query the ACA and say how many people applied? Anything like that?
I'm not sure. I don't know if that would have to be revealed or not. Because I could talk to our folks about that.
Theoretically, as you said, there is a door that's open, depending on.
Well, the door closes on September 30th, and then it becomes, it is what it is, no matter what. As long as you met all the requirements, you will get money. It's just how many other people applied and how does it get divvied up, or how does it get prorated depending on what people asked for. Big phone checks. We usually don't do that.
Aw.
I got a question. So what are you looking at the future? This is the first step towards what? It kind of seems to me like the NSF has been